What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about SoundHound. I want to go over some of the current data points, what's moving it, and honestly the only positive right now for SoundHound. Before we get into any of that, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So SoundHound's down 13.98%, 675 the low, 786 the high. So it did bounce off of a very key support, so I'll go over that in a second, but I'm sure everyone knows this at this stage in the game. China did retaliate, so that's what's causing a lot of turmoil in the broader market. Aside from that, you also did have non-farm payroll, unemployment. So non-farm payroll came in better than anticipated, unemployment came flat, so that's kind of okay, but Powell did also speak, and unfortunately he popped the bubble and the optimism associated to cuts for May. He pretty much said that's off the table, so it's that's not what the market really wanted to hear. But as of right now, you also see the fear and greed index under the extreme fear category 4, so just people's appetite for risk is not there. So SoundHound is just kind of stuck in limbo because there hasn't been all that much in news today, nor any SEC filings or anything like that. They did post something on social media just about this, so tax season chaos and blah blah blah, really just selling their product, which I think is good. But with that said, I feel like I'm not getting the warm fuzzy feeling that management is like really truly selling SoundHound, because yeah, all this isn't going to cut it, and very little engagement. So as I've started to cover SoundHound, I did state that it was like a trifecta stock. So good AI play, good momentum stock, and then at the same time, it also had some kind of a squeeze play. So squeeze, momentum, and AI. But ultimately, SoundHound, based on the volume, like big money is not really buying the SoundHound dip. So it is losing momentum. And for a momentum stock, you definitely need that capital to get in. These are all the transactions occurring on the secondary market so far today. 3 buys and one for 113, 111, and 104. So unfortunately, big money is just not really paying attention to it. Squeeze play, in order for a squeeze to occur, you need the company to like put out a good catalyst. And honestly, there hasn't been anything of substance from SoundHound. I have brought up another company that does pretty much the same thing as them called Resolve. They've done a lot of acquisitions in the last like quarter. So SoundHound's just not really wowing me, and clearly the broader market as much as a lot of people would have initially thought. But shorts are returning 56,000 shares today. 32.19% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 115.52 million shares. So shorts are not the problem today. It is truly just institutions selling and nobody really buying SoundHound. So it is just a very, very crappy scenario. But aside from that, looking at some of the options, 2.74 million in calls, 3.34 in puts, 49% of all the options being done today are optimistic in nature, and some of that was to do with this right here. So between that, actually I'll go over back here. So between 9:30 and 9:35, there were 664,000 in premiums. And ultimately, if we kind of orient it, it looks as though a lot of which was around the $12 strike price. And it was a multi-leg transaction, so a lot of different ones, but overall bullish. And so yeah, $12 calls. So that's kind of a good return on investment. But I feel like a lot of that had to do with what just came out. It shows yesterday, but it was actually posted today, and that was a new analyst rating. So you see, again, yesterday, 850 price target, Cantor Fitzgerald, Brett, who has a 37% success rating. So yeah, it is what it is. So you're not really seeing that much optimism. So of course, 850, given where it's at right now, is fairly good, but I'm sure 90% of you have a higher average than that. So it's not necessarily the best. Side note, if you do want access to analyst ratings, forecasts, and everything, then take a look at IBKR, link in the description below and also the comments. But as far as that one analyst, them giving an 850 price target, they did actually cause the earnings per share to go higher, which is negative. So it went from -8 to -9. And then for revenue, that got cut dramatically. So 33.56 million was the current estimate, or a previous estimate. Now it is 30.44. So still not that much level of optimism. But going back over here for a second, so of the call options that are being done today, you see a consensus for it to be above roughly 750, 8. So still not that nice of a recovery. And then the bears are anticipating for it to be sub 7. So honestly, it is what it is. Not much optimism or anything. With today being Friday, on a side note, you can kind of see there's no real like in the money or options. So there's not really going to be much manipulation, no gamma squeeze, nothing like that. So just overall dollar value getting into SoundHound through both common stock and also options isn't really there. So with that said, I do have a little bit of an announcement at the end of the video that I want to go over. But first, there is one only positive type of thing that is happening right now with SoundHound, and that is them submitting that S3. So they do essentially have a little bit of a moat. So they've been most likely diluting a little bit when you do submit that S3. So a shelf offering, it's good for 3 years. You don't have to disclose when you actually are diluting, just during the quarterly earnings. So in my opinion, given over the last couple of weeks abnormal volume, it is fair to assume that SoundHound has been starting to dilute. So they might have a good float around them. So in times of distress, such as now, they might be a-okay somewhat, but still I know from a shareholder standpoint, that's not advantageous to kind of know. But as far as kind of the company standpoint, that is like the only positive as of right now. So yeah, let me know your general thoughts on that. Based on this, big money, like I already mentioned, isn't really buying the dip. Aside from that, even on the dark pool, kind of low volume, and based on at least this in conjunction with where the price action is, it is fair to assume that there is a hell of a lot of selling going on right now. So let me know your viewpoint on that in the comments below. Aside from that though, with it at 722, it is trading between this S1 and this S2. So 677 is going to be a strong support. And that's actually what it did bounce off of today for the low. So 675 is the low. The high $7.69. So we might see a little bit of an additional push higher, and maybe even come Monday you might see a nice push higher. But aside from that though, I feel like those tariffs are going to loom over the broader market until we have data. And that's exactly what Powell did mention. He said that we're just going to have to wait and see for the data just to tell us how tariffs are. And that's kind of the negative side of the feds, is they're not really proactive. They want to wait for the data, which at that stage is already going to be too late. So all in all, not necessarily the best. Aside from that though, on the actual chart itself, not really much positives to bring up. It is below the 200-day moving average, below the ALMA. Stochastic RSI is very oversold, so that could really put out, if they were to put out something good for news, then you could see a nice little push higher. But as of right now, with it below that 200-day moving average, it just signals that there is more kind of downside coming. So last time that did happen, when it was below that 200-day moving average, was July 2023 for the most part, when it was at $3, and it did have a low during that kind of peak of $1.56. So yeah, anything could happen, but the technicals, just macro standpoint, is not advantageous. But with that said, I do have one announcement with SoundHound, and of course my title for this YouTube channel is called Trending Stocks. SoundHound has definitely dropped off of that, so it's not really popular whatsoever. Obviously this whole time period was very fun, exciting, even during up here when I was able to predict from like $6 to like when it hit the $24 range, was very fun and exciting. But since then, retail has dropped off, institutions have dropped off. So I'm going to go back to where I was starting to cover it around here, just do one video a week. So I'm going to be reducing that, unfortunately, and unless they do put out some news or something. But I feel like SoundHound, I'm not getting the warm fuzzy feeling from management that they're really putting in that much effort either. So yeah, it is unfortunate, but that's kind of the stock market. So let me know your thoughts on all of that. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. One final thing, if you're looking for some kick-ass buy signals, pop over to my Patreon. I give buy signals on stocks, options, and crypto. Many of them have been absolutely on point and bangers. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.